Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, all about our CRM dashboards. This is actually the last webinar in this series, but don't worry, of course, you can watch any of these back on our YouTube channel. And we're always looking for suggestions on new webinars on topics for us to be doing. So if there is anything you want us to cover, please do pop a message either in this webinar or pop any of your customer success team a message. I'm Abby, and I'm one of your customer success managers. I've been with ProspectSoft now for over 2 years. I actually started off in a technical support role, but very recently made the exciting switch to join the customer success team. Please feel free to leave any questions during this webinar in the Q&A option below. I'll get round to answering these at the end, along with any pre-submitted questions. So quickly, the agenda for today is all about giving you a tour around our default dashboards, and this will include a bit of an explanation behind each key tile. I'll then be going through how you can change the view to the dashboard. So you can change this based on the account manager or sales rep, and you can also actually restrict what data is seen by each user. And then finally, I'll go over how you can actually embed and create your own custom dashboards within the CRM. So some key takeaways is mainly a focus on the dashboard tiles. So helping you understand what data is used to create the dashboard tiles, because understanding will allow you to know how to utilize the tiles. Also going through configurations just to make sure you got the dashboard set up in the best way to fit your business. And then finally, just answering the question of what are custom dashboards, how can I create one, and what does that process look like? So let's get into the demo. So I'm just in the CRM now, and as you can see, I'm on the account manager dashboard. That's where we're going to be starting today. I'm not going to be talking about RFM analysis in today's webinar, mainly just because we've got quite a few webinars that are solely focused on the RFM analysis, and they go into a lot more depth as how you can utilize this. So I won't be covering it in today's webinar. If you did want to watch something about that, do let me know, and I can put a link at the end of this webinar. So let's get started. We'll start off over here in the left-hand corner with the orders tile. So we generate this using your ERP/accounting system orders. So this is any order that have been confirmed from the CRM or directly in your accounting system. And we're just displaying the base value of this month compared to last month. And then you'll have a comparative percentage there as well. And below that, we've then got 12-month orders. So this is just a bar chart of what that looks like over a 12-month period. This demo data has had a really good month this month. So it does look a little bit skewed. So if I actually just change the account manager I'm looking at, you'll be able to see perhaps a little bit more representative data. So here's what it will look like. And this is mainly just to give you an overview of what your customers are spending. And it's based on orders, as I mentioned, but if you are connected to Sin7 Core, previously DEAR, or Unleashed, there is actually a system setting to make these tiles calculate based on sales invoice. So if invoicing is a little bit more relevant to your business, then you can switch that over if required. But again, that's only for Unleashed or Sin7 Core customers. If that's something you would love, but it's not one of your integrations, do let us know in the feedback portal and our product team can review that. So again, those two tiles are just more of an overview for you to see what your customers are spending and how much you're earning. And if we move over to the right, we'll go over now to the missing orders section. So this is a little bit more of an actionable tile. So this is going to be showing you all of your customers who have missed an order, essentially. So the CRM in the background goes and calculates, looks at your customer buying trend and finds patterns in them, and basically tries to predict when the CRM thinks this customer should next have ordered by. And if that date comes along and passes without an order, then they're going to appear on the missing orders tile. So this is basically just telling you that these customers probably should have ordered by now. So you might want to reach out to them, perhaps have a conversation with them, see what's happening. Obviously, if you're more than aware of a situation, perhaps they did a unusually large order previously, then that's fine, but it's just a way of indicating to you some customers that you might want to focus on. And what's really great with all of the tiles on the account manager dashboard is that you can actually click see more. And this is going to open up a report that actually reflects the data that's on the tile. But obviously, as you can see, being a report, you've got a few more fields here and you can go into a little bit more detail in terms of the customer and what's going on. So definitely worth making sure you do drill into the tiles just so then you get a full sense of the data. Obviously, the tiles are there mainly just for an overview. And you can add your custom filters to these reports, but it is important to remember that adding any filters won't actually change what is seen on the tiles. The reports are more of a reflection of what the data is rather than actually a direct correlation for the account manager dashboard. And if we go down here, we've got close rate and we've got problems. So the problems is just showing you any problems that your customers have. CRM problem records I'm referring to there. And then the close rate is any opportunities that have been closed for these customers. And you'll see these do have some tabs here, so you can flick it between this month, 90 days, and for problems, you can see open and closed. And these are going to be ordered in how recently they were raised. So you can see a problem was created 11 hours ago for this customer. And again, because the account manager dashboard is there to help account managers manage their accounts, these two tiles are here just to give you a bit more of an overview to see what your customers are up to, especially problems. It's great to see if they've got any returns being logged or anything like that. And yeah, if we then move on to the needs engagement section. So this one is a little bit more configurable, I would say. So needs engagement is something that can be set within system settings. So it's a period of which you would like your customers to have been contacted within. So say you have a rule where all of your accounts have to be contacted once a month or something, then your needs engagement period would be set for a month. And if any customers have gone longer than a month, that's then when they're going to be coming up as needs engagement. So this is a really great way for an account manager to prioritize which customers they need to be reaching out to. And what's really handy is that you can actually determine what interaction is noted as engagement. So perhaps a outbound phone call would be engagement, but perhaps sending an email wouldn't be engagement because you want the customer to be engaging with you. And sending an email, they might not get it, they might not reply. That's not really engagement. So again, that's fully configurable within system settings. And if anybody wants any more details on how you can do that, I'd be happy to share any help docs, or perhaps we can have a webinar focusing just on needs engagement. And what's also really good is that you can mark orders as needs engagement. So it's really great that that's an option. My personal preference is actually not to have orders as engagement because in my view, we've got the missing orders tile here. That's telling you when your customers should have ordered by now. Engagement, I see it more as you engaging with the customer and the customer engaging with you back. So if you have a website and the customer places the order via the website, they're not engaging with you in any way. And so I wouldn't see that as engagement. But obviously, it's down to your business and it's down to personal preference. So the option is there if you want it. And what's also really great, it's a very configurable tile. So what's also really great is that you can change the engagement period per company priority. So if you have priority set up in the CRM, you can set a high priority customer. So these are probably going to be your high value customers, and they are a high priority. Then you can actually set their needs engagement period to be perhaps a bit sooner. So perhaps you want to be engaging with them every week rather than every month. And so you can do that based on priorities. And then, of course, that will reflect on the tile as well. So you've got quite a few options there in terms of what you would class as engagement, because obviously every business is different. It's down to what you see it as. Um, and going back to kind of why you would use this tile, again, it's mainly just there for the account managers to help prioritize which customers they should be reaching out to soon, really. And that goes quite hand in hand with the customer trend tile. So this is actually calculated by your customer's sales transactions. So this is orders placed coming in from your ERP and accounting system, and it's on a rolling year-on-year basis. So basically, it takes how much they spent within the last 365 days, and it compares that to the previous 365 days. And then the difference is what you've got here on the customer trend, because they're either going to be growing, declining, or they're kind of staying static. So this is, again, a really great way to have a quick overview as an account manager to see how your customers are performing, but also a great way to find ones to prioritize. And you'll often find actually there's quite a crossover between customer trend and missing orders. As you can see here, the Great British Bake Off Kitchen is declining in value and also is missing an order. So they're kind of going to go hand in hand. If they're missing an order, it's most likely they've not spent as much as last year, because the CRM's calculated the missing orders based on their order pattern. So they often go hand in hand, but they don't always have to. And so it is really great to treat them separately. And the customer trend also works really hand in hand with our magic matrix. Because if you see a customer declining and you have a look at their magic matrix and you see, okay, they've actually got quite a few categories they're unaware of, that's a really great opportunity for upsell, cross-sell, and as a way of making a bit more engagement with them to get their trend up. So quite a few important tiles there, and all really aimed at just helping you understand where your customers are at right now and which ones to prioritize and what you need to prioritize with them. Perhaps it's engagement you need to prioritize more, or perhaps it is actually pushing a few more orders with them. And what's really nice with the account manager dashboard as well is that you can filter the dashboard per account manager. So if the user within user management is set up as an account manager, they'll show up in this drop down, and you can then select as an admin to view their data. And so now the dashboard is only showing data based on Amber's customers. So where Amber is set as the account manager for the customer. So again, this is just really great if your account managers want perhaps a bit more of a blinkered view. So they just want to be focused on the accounts that they're managing and just to see how they're performing, really. The data itself, the tiles, all still show the same information. It's just filtered down to just your accounts. And of course, you can switch it back to everyone. So that's the account manager dashboard. And let's now go and have a look at the overview dashboard, because this actually does work a little bit differently. So remember how I said before for the account manager dashboard, the reports underneath the tiles don't actually have any correlation to the data shown on the tiles. Well, that's the opposite for the overview dashboard. The overview dashboard is exactly what it says. It's there to give you a bit of an instant overview as to what's happening right now. So how many orders you've had this month, any pending orders, things like that. But what's really great is if you click onto the tile, you can drill down. So I'm going to click on open opportunities. I've currently got about 400 open opportunities. But actually, for this example, we use opportunities for quite a few things. So we use them for onboarding customers, as well as trying to use it as an opportunity to sell. And so actually, I want this filtered by pipeline. So I'm going to filter this report by pipeline. And I only want to have, say, respend, new sale, or repeat business, for example. And obviously, you can add any filters that are relevant, but that's just what I'm going with. And if you click save and share changes with everyone, we save that. And so now the figures change to about 280. And if we click out of that, reload, that tile now reflects the data that's in the reports. So this is really great just to give you, again, a little bit more customization, perhaps with things like open quotes. You might want to filter out any open web quotes because perhaps they're not as relevant to the dashboard. You're not that fussed about seeing them. It just means you can make sure that what you're seeing is actually relevant to you. Because at the end of the day, these tiles are meant to be useful for you. So it is definitely worth having a go and looking at these tiles. But otherwise, they're pretty self-explanatory as to what they show. And obviously, if any of the reports have been customized, you'll have this notice here saying this report has custom filters. And definitely worth mentioning that if you change the report and save it for everyone, the dashboard will also then change for everyone. So perhaps don't go adding filters that are only relevant to you because other people might not find them too relevant. So just keep that in mind. And then on the overview dashboard, what we also have is a big tasks list. So this is exactly what will be seen in the bell icon up here. It's just a bit of a bigger view. And again, you've got the show more option there in case you wanted a report on it. I also find these reports quite useful if you're wanting to build, for example, a task report, but actually you don't want to see yours, you want to see another user's. Well, you can actually just use these as a baseline. So you can just change the filter to be whichever user and then save the report as a new report. So it's a bit more of a quick process rather than creating loads of reports by scratch. You can just use these as a base. So that's another element that's quite useful. And then the other thing to note on the overview dashboard is the quite handy recent tile. So you might notice that it's been updating whilst we've been doing this webinar, and it just tells you what records, including reports, what searches you've been doing, anything you've opened recently. So quite useful. As you can see, I've been opening quite a few reports. If perhaps I can't remember which one I last opened or they all kind of become a blur, you can quite nicely just see this recent tile and you can go into any of them from here. So quite a nice one to perhaps help some time keeping there. So that's the overview dashboard. And now let's have a look at the sales manager dashboard. Very similar to what you've got on the account manager dashboard, but obviously this is perhaps a bit more focused on your salespeople and sales manager. So you've got a nice bar chart here that would actually show you 3 years worth of comparative spending. So you can see how much sales you've been doing in January for all 3 years. Again, because of the large order we had this month, this graph is a little bit skewed, but the bars are there, I promise. So yeah, that's just there as a great way for you to have a bit of an overview as to what your customers are doing. And then perhaps more importantly, for the leaderboard, this is a really great way for you to then see what your sales reps are actually doing and just keeping track of how much they're managing to sell this month compared to last month. It's definitely important to note for the leaderboard tiles, this is actually done by CRM quotes only. So any orders put directly into your ERP or accounting system will not be considered in this leaderboard. And any cancelled CRM quotes, they won't be considered either. This is only quotes that are in the CRM and are open and confirmed. But this leaderboard does refresh every 15 minutes. So most of the other tiles refresh overnight. But the leaderboard, of course, you kind of want that to be a bit more up to date. It needs to be relevant. So that's every 15 minutes it refreshes. So yeah, that's a really great way for the manager just to keep an eye on what's happening and who's on the top spot. And then next to it, you've got a nice tile there, which just gives you a bit of an overview on some stats. And we do have a really great guide that actually goes through and tells you exactly what calculates these. So for instance, not yet fully onboarded, that's any customers who have had less than 4 orders with you. And so that's a really great way, again, just to identify a few more customers that you might want to reach out to. And if you click on any of them, then of course there's a report under there for you to, you can either export it to Excel or you can just have a bit more of a detailed view. And then you have very similar tiles. So here you've got closed deals. That's the opportunities one. And the pipeline, again, this is a great way for you to have a look at what's in the pipeline. So what possible order value you're going to be taking in soon, as well as any of the biggest opportunities. And you can see the user next to it and a quick, nice hyperlink there to the opportunity, just for the manager to have a bit more of an overview as to what's happening. And then similar to the account manager, you've got the problems tile again. You can filter it by open, closed, etc. And then lost opportunities would be any opportunities closed in a negative status. And if you don't have any, like this profile, it will just say no data is available. So that just means you've not lost any opportunities, which is, of course, great news. But yeah, that's the sales manager dashboard. And actually, if we have a look quickly at the sales rep dashboard, you'll notice it's fairly similar and kind of a mix of the account manager dashboard. So we've got our orders one here again, and then we've got the CRM quote leaderboard, but we've also got this, which is quite nice, the focus. So that's really useful, again, to help sales rep prioritize which opportunities they should be looking at. So you've got the option of push to close or slipping away. And if you're using simple quotes, so simple quotes are where you've got an opportunity and a quote record kind of merged into one record, they'll show up on here as well as any just standard opportunities. But any sub quotes, so any quotes created under the opportunity, I don't believe will show on here. And yeah, we've got opportunities again down here, current pipeline. It's all just here to help your sales rep kind of focus on what they need to be looking at. So what current big pipelines they've got this month, and then any they've got coming up in next month. And again, you've got a nice one here for opportunities to filter by pipeline. So you can see what you've got coming up as well. And the sales rep dashboard, similar to the account manager one, you can actually filter that down. So when we say sales rep, we essentially just mean the salesperson of the CRM quote. So the drop down should have every user on, every licensed user. And if you click onto it, then it will again update to show just opportunities and quotes that they are set as the salesperson for. So it's really important, especially for the leaderboard, if you have CRM quotes, to make sure that the salesperson is being set as the correct person. If the salesperson isn't set, then it won't be contributed to the leaderboard and it won't show up on the dashboard if you've got it filtered down by sales rep. So definitely important to make sure that's being set, perhaps have it as a required field. And yeah, so those are the dashboards. A little bit of a quick tour. If you wanted me to talk in any more depth about a specific tile, do let me know in the Q&A and I can come back to that at the end. But now I'm going to quickly go over how you can configure your dashboards a little bit more. So in this drop down, if you're an admin, you'll have the configure dashboard option. And if you open this up, you can actually configure your dashboards. So if I'm going to go into the sales rep dashboard, I've actually decided that I only want my sales rep to view their own data. So you can actually toggle that here by default. But if perhaps for the account managers, I want it to be visible to everybody, and I want it to be by default, you can view all of your data. But for instance, here, I have one user who is an account manager, and actually, I only want them to see their own data. I don't want them to see any other accounts or anything related to that. So you can actually just add a user role. I'll go through it here again and select them, click update, and then you've got the option here. Now, if you notice that it's like grayed out, you can't select it, that's probably because they're not actually set as an account manager. Because remembering, I'm configuring the account manager dashboard, and so you have to be an account manager for it to show your own data. But equally, you can make it, if they're not an account manager, I don't want them to see it at all for this specific user. So you've got quite a few configure options there on how you want to manage them. And this goes for any of your dashboards, whether they're custom or not. And then finally, let's have a look at some custom dashboards. So if I go back to my dashboards here, and I have one that I made earlier called All Tasks. So this is actually a CRM report of all of my users' tasks. So any task that is assigned to a user is in this report. And I wanted to add it as a dashboard just so then I've got it there, easy access. It's one of the first things I do in the morning is check the account manager dashboard and then check all tasks. So it's really just there for convenience. And of course, if you pin the filters, then you can quite easily change any of the filters as well. So it's just a bit more of an accessible way to get to any reports that perhaps you check every morning or something like that. And it's quite easy to create one. So you just need to create the report, of course, and then go back to configure dashboards and use the plus option in the top right-hand corner here. You want to give it a name. So I'm going to be using a report called industry. And so I'm going to call it industry, but you can call it anything you want. And then you're going to change the type to report. And then you're going to have the option to select any of your reports. And notice you do have a My Report section. So obviously this is going to show you any reports that are saved just for you. You can select them. So I'm going to select the industry report and create that. But obviously going back to what I was speaking about earlier with configuring them, if it's a report just for you, you probably want the default roles for it to not be visible if it's something just for you. And then, of course, if you wanted to share it with just specific users, you can add them as a role to the dashboard. So this is also a really great way if you've got a report that you want to share just for one user, you can do it this way as well. Okay. And then finally, a little bit more of a advanced option as a custom dashboard is to have a tool like Power BI actually be embedded within the CRM. So this is actually really cool. Obviously, Power BI is a third-party software that might have its own charges, but if you do have Power BI or a tool very similar to it, you can actually embed any published dashboard to the CRM dashboards. So again, here's one I prepared earlier. It will ask you to log in. So if it's the first time you're in the CRM viewing the dashboard, it will ask you to log into Power BI. So you will need a license for each user who you want to view the dashboard. But once you've logged in, of course, until you log out of the CRM, you don't have to keep logging in or anything. And yeah, here it is. So you can view your Power BI dashboard. You can view multiple tabs along here at the bottom. And this is great because it just gives you that added level of flexibility if you've got some really specific charts you want to create. If you want to be able to dynamically change the date range and things like that, you can quite easily do that and still be in the CRM. So it's quite nice, quite a nice link there for you. And yeah, definitely a very cool feature. So to set this up, you want to go very similar to the custom report dashboard. You want to go to configure dashboard, the little plus button up there, but you want to use the URL. So you get the URL from Power BI. I believe the report has to be published. And if you go to file, and then it should have an embed link, I think it's called. There's a guide on where you can specifically go in Power BI to get this, but you get that URL, you then paste it in here and it will create it for you. So you can see here, that's an example of a link to a Power BI dashboard. You just put it in there and then it displays as if by magic. So again, and you can configure the visibility of the Power BI dashboards as well if you wanted to, but obviously only users with Power BI logins can view it, but it's there if you need it. Okay, I think I've covered everything I wanted to in the demo. Again, as mentioned, I'm sure I've said quite a lot of stuff, so this is recorded. You can come back and watch it. And if you wanted me to cover anything in more detail, just leave it in the Q&A section. But for now, I will go back to my slides. So just to recap the key takeaways for today's webinar, hopefully I gave you a little bit more background detail in what goes behind all of the tiles on the dashboards. Hopefully gave you some ideas on why you'd want to utilize them as well. I've also shown you how to configure the dashboard visibility. So just to make sure that the right users are looking at the right data if required. And then I've gone over the two options for custom dashboards. We have the tools like Power BI embed ones or the custom CRM report ones. If the Power BI option is something you would really like to do, but you're not quite sure on Power BI, our amazing consultants do actually offer a few packages to help with that. We can either completely build a dashboard for you based on your requirements, or we can actually provide you with some Power BI training focused on how to use Power BI with the CRM data. So those are some packages we have available. Again, if that interests anybody, do get in contact with your customer success team and they'll be able to help you out. So, Q&A section. I know before this webinar, somebody asked about financial year and the dashboards. So none of the dashboards can be configured to show information based on financial year. Most of it is anyway, just the last 365 days or the year to date. But there's no way to currently kind of filter it by financial year, unless of course you're on the overview dashboard where you can change the reports underneath. Okay, so quite a few questions. Let me see. Lisa, hi Abby, is order data by account manager who is entered or who owns the customer? That's a really great question. So if I go back to the dashboard, I presume you meant the account manager one. So this is based on if they are set as the account manager for the customer. So for this dashboard, it doesn't matter who's set as the salesperson for the quote, it matters who the customer account manager is. If you wanted to see the salesperson, then you'd want to go and have a look at the sales rep dashboard, which is based on the salesperson of the quote. Go back here. With the missing orders section, are we able to set order frequency manually? As far as I'm aware, no. If that's something that would be quite interesting to a few people, do let me know. I can add that to our feedback portal. But the idea definitely is that the CRM kind of calculates it based on trends. So it's more like if they've been all it's more to alert you if a customer's kind of gone off their order frequency, just to try and help identify if a customer is likely to perhaps leave you or is having some changes. So it's more based on that rather than being able to manually set, I want them to order every week or so. But I can see why that would be really useful. So we can definitely get that added to the feedback portal if you would like. Can you set needs engagement per customer? If so, where would you do that? Yeah, we can definitely do more in depth on the needs engagement section because I do respect that it is a little bit complex. But this is actually set within the company priority. So that's done within system settings. And hopefully I can spell priority. There we go. So company priority levels, and you click to configure that. So by standard, I think you've got high, medium, and low. And if you then configure that, you'll see the engagement days. So you can change the engagement days for those priorities. And then company priority is just a field you set on the company. So then that's how you can actually change the needs engagement per customer. Obviously, it's not per customer, it's per company priority, but yeah, that's how you would manage that scenario. Can we have invoice value in overview dashboard? I don't think anything on the overview dashboard is per invoice. I don't think so. Because you've got order value this month. So a really great way to know what it's referring to is by opening the report and then doing select fields. So as you can see, this is actually based on quotes. So this is going to be on the value based on CRM quotes rather than on invoices. So I don't think invoice value is something for the overview dashboard. As mentioned, if you've got Sin7 Core or Unleashed, you can have it set for the account manager dashboard. But yeah, those are your two options really there. Again, if that's something you are interested in, feedback portal is the place to put that. So great. Is it possible within the software to plan a following week's planning visits for all to see? Basically just showing what calls and visits you'll be doing this week, not set at specific times as visit links may vary. Yeah, so almost I feel like a planner perhaps is what you're looking for there, perhaps a calendar section. I say that because we do have a CRM calendar coming out really shortly. It's something that I believe is being released to some beta testers in the following week. So that will be connected to your Outlook calendar, and then you can view the calendar within the CRM itself. So I feel like that would probably be your best way to manage this, because then you would have CRM events so that you can put into the calendar. If we're looking at outside of that, if you didn't want to wait and you wanted to do something right now, your best option would probably be to manage it via a report of some sort. So perhaps either activity notes or tasks. So setting certain tasks. So have a problem record for every company that you're going to be visiting, and then you can have a task set for that problem record to say when you're going to be doing that. You can then create a report that shows you all of the tasks that have that particular type or wording in it, and you can then reflect that onto your dashboard as a custom dashboard. That's probably how I would kind of get around the fact that the calendar's not yet released, but might be best for you to wait for the calendar and give that a test out to see if that's going to help manage customer visits. And then finally, how do we set our dashboards to reflect our financial year? Yeah, so I answered that at the beginning, that the dashboards currently don't depend on financial year. It is dependent on, so for example, your 12-month order one is going to be the last 12 months of orders. And the order one here is for this month compared to last month. So there isn't really any that would depend on financial year. I suppose perhaps the customer trend might be quite a nice one to have financial year, but as I mentioned, right now it's based on the last 365 days compared to the previous 365 days. But that would definitely be a really great addition. And of course, you can probably create a report that reflects that and add that as a custom dashboard. Great. So that's all of the questions answered for now. If you did have any more, please do put them in the Q&A section. I'm very happy to stay for a couple minutes just to make sure everybody gets their questions in. But you're also welcome to contact me or anyone in the team afterwards if you had any more questions. And of course, if you wanted to watch this back or have a look at what upcoming webinars we'll have shortly, then you can go to our webinars page or our YouTube page. But otherwise, that is it for today's webinar. I hope you guys learned something and understand the dashboards a little bit more. As I mentioned, I will be staying for a couple minutes just to make sure you don't have any last minute questions. But otherwise, I hope you all have a fantastic day and have a lovely week. And I'm sure I'll speak to some of you soon. How to change account managers to agree with our account system? So that's a really great question. And actually, I believe that depends on what account system you have. I'm afraid I don't know off the top of my head, what account system you have. But I believe on some of them, I think perhaps Sin7 Core previously did, and Unleashed, I believe we sync account managers. So if they're an account manager in Unleashed, then that will be synced to the CRM. And I know if you've got the Unleashed two-way sync on, then only account managers in both systems can be set as account managers, if that makes sense. But otherwise, I don't think we have any other integration. So it's very possible that you would have to manage these separately. And you just set an account manager within system settings, and it's quite easy to actually assign them companies. You can either do it via Excel or our bulk import tool. Um, but otherwise, unless you have Sin 7, or I think Sin 7 Core is for sales representatives rather than account managers, it might just be Unleashed that we have the link with. But I'm very happy to get back to you on that one if it is something you would like me to investigate. Perhaps I can log it in our feedback portal. So I'll just make a note of that now, Moira, and I'll get back to you. Okay, David, will the Outlook calendar update be an extra license or cost to the CRM? That's not something I can answer for you right now, mainly because I don't know the answer to it. So usually how these things go is that we release it in private preview for a set of kind of beta testers. And that just means that isn't at any extra cost. And it means you can test it out, let us know any improvements, and I believe only once it's out of preview will we decide if it comes at an extra cost or not. Um, but I believe we'll be releasing the openings for early adopters very shortly. So I can definitely take down your name, David, if that is something you're interested in joining. I can make sure that communication goes out to you. But in terms of whether it is going to be an extra cost or not, I'm afraid that's not something I have the answer to right now. Yes, please. Cool. I have noted down your name and I'll make sure that gets passed on to the product team to get you added as an early adopter. Looks like there are no more questions. I'm sure you're all bored of my voice now for rambling on. But you're also welcome to, if you have any more questions, obviously do reach out to us. But if that's it, I will leave you all with a lovely afternoon and hopefully lovely weather wherever you are. All right. Have a lovely day, everyone, and thank you very much for joining.